What's up guys, welcome back. Now in this video we're going to be talking about Shuntaro Furukawa, President of Nintendo. Sounds almost like a Mortal Kombat character, huh? President Furukawa, we're going to be talking about him in this video, and of course this is just my opinion on the situation with Furukawa and in regards to what fans have been saying about him and my viewpoint of what a good leader can be for Nintendo. Of course everyone's going to have their own opinion on the matter. Feel free to let me know in the comment section what you think the leader of Nintendo should be like. However, I do think that he has done a fantastic job so far, and we're going to go over why I think that in this video. So let's go ahead and talk about this. So basically, ever since Nintendo has reported that they have missed their 20 million sales goal for the Switch to their investors by 3 million to 17 million for the fiscal year 2018, there's been some discussion online from YouTubers, different fans, and so forth on the handling of the situation from Furukawa himself and some of the bad news regarding Metroid Prime 4's delay and other things regarding Nintendo as well. So there seems to be possibly some confusion on what Furukawa is doing with Nintendo. Maybe he's a bit too harsh or too blunt, or maybe he is too critical of his own company is what I'm hearing. And just maybe he's made some mistakes in how he's presenting information to the public, to the investors, to the media, and so forth. So in regards to that, we know that Furukawa became president in June of 2018, and the 20 million sales goal was already set by the previous administration led by Tatsumi Kimishima, and they set that big lofty sales goal of 20 million systems sold in the fiscal year 2018. And they actually did talk about during that time in the beginning about how they expected Labo to be a big driving force in that. And if you were following the sales data of that time period, we know that Labo did not drive sales for the Nintendo Switch really for the hardware, and it did not lead the Switch into winning an NPD during its time of launch. Also, in combination with that, the software they had for the first half of 2018 was lackluster in terms of driving the user base of the Nintendo Switch, as you all are pretty familiar with so far with everything that's been talked about with other different channels and so forth. But regardless of that, we know that Nintendo has said they're not going to make their 20 million goal. They're going to set it to 17 million, 3 million less. So I've heard the argument in question of Furukawa saying, hey, you know, why didn't you set that sales goal lower a lot sooner so the reaction wouldn't be quite as bad later? So my response is, this is a stupid move, because if you were to do that as a CEO or as the company, say in October, for example, when they met with shareholders and said, hey, we're not going to make that 20 million goal, right as they go into the all-important big holiday season, I think that would have been even worse if they would have done it at that time, especially since they did not know for sure how much the Nintendo Switch was going to sell. It ended up selling 9.4 million consoles during the holiday season over 3 months. Furukawa said himself that they did not know 100% for sure how much they were going to sell. They did expect to sell a lot, and it ended up being a lot, but they did need to sell over 12 million in that time period for them to quite possibly make their goal. So there was no way that they were going to say that, hey, you know, we're not going to make our 20 million goal, because they simply didn't know 100% for sure, and that would have been a bad move with investors for them to actually drop their stock during that time instead of waiting till after the holiday season was decided to see where they stood in the sales market. And the same applies for Metroid Prime 4. That was actually a smart move for them to report that delay or cancellation and then delay of the game to be done in January and not during the holiday season. The holiday season is over. They collected all their money, all their paychecks. They probably cashed out some stock. Everyone got what they wanted during the holiday season. Nintendo made a lot of money from software. So reporting the information in January, any bad news being reported by a company is really a good idea to do in January. Not in December during the holiday season, but in January when the holidays are over. That is an excellent time to report bad news. And then with Metroid Prime 4, that was a perfect timing to report the delay or cancellation and reboot of the game on a Friday. And why is that?
Well, standard operating procedure.
Do they know this yet?
No, of course not. We find it's always better to fire people on a Friday. Studies have statistically shown that there's less chance of an incident if you do it at the end of the week. Anyway.
That's right, because on Friday, people are less likely to be more annoyed with information, and then going into the weekend, they recharge, reboot, and then on Monday, they start again for the next week. And the sting of the bad news is just psychologically less impactful on a Friday than it would be on a Monday. I know that sounds weird, but it is actually psychologically true. And since Nintendo was already going to report bad news anyway the following week, that was the perfect timing to do so, because you might as well do it all at the same time than have a staggered release of bad news over a couple months' time. You might as well do it all in 1 week, which is exactly what they did. I thought that was a very good idea, and it was the best way they could possibly handle that type of quote-unquote bad news being shared with their investors and their fans. Now, if you looked at their Q&A with the investors, I didn't really see any questions about Metroid Prime 4 being delayed. I could be wrong, but if you guys saw any questions from investors about why Metroid Prime 4 was delayed to Furukawa or one of the other Nintendo representatives, let me know. But I didn't notice anybody asking about that game being delayed. They already reported it, but it seemed like investors are a lot more concerned with why Nintendo missed their 20 million goal that they set before, and why they picked 17 million. Now, the quote that some Nintendo fans and YouTubers and whatnot are having with Furukawa with his statement about Nintendo Switch missing their goal was when he said that, and I quote, "As we look back so far for this fiscal year, we now evaluate that our efforts to fully convey the appeal of Nintendo Switch hardware and software to the number of new consumers we originally hoped to reach were insufficient." So it seemed like this quote bothered quite a bit of fans. What I'm hearing is that fans think that he was being a little bit too harsh on Nintendo and hard on themselves to reach that goal, and that, hey, you guys did good enough. How dare you, say that you was insufficient. You guys did amazing. 17 million is an amazing number. And yes, that is true. 17 million is greater than the entire Wii U sales lifespan in 1 year. However, you got to think of the context of what he's talking about here, guys. He's talking to investors. He's not talking to Nintendo fans. He's talking to investors who have invested and hoped in Nintendo reaching a 20 million sales number, which, as we know, is 3 million more than 17 million. Now, you may think that, 3 million less, that's no big deal. 17 million is a great number. How can they be disappointed in that? Well, here's the reason why investors got so upset with that number, is because 3 million Nintendo Switch console sales, you take the $299 or $300 that the Switch retails for, multiply that by 3 million, that's $900 million US of sales revenue. And that is exactly why the investors were not too happy with hearing about close to $1 billion of sales revenue being projected to be missed by Nintendo when they previously said they were going to do so, which henceforth caused them to pull back and take out stock from Nintendo, which caused their stock to drop very quickly. I believe Nintendo stock dropped by almost 10% in a couple days during that time period that they reported that, which makes sense because if you're going to project lower, your stock value is going to drop as well. So the reason why the investors pulled out stock from Nintendo is completely understandable and reasonable, seeing that they are projected to make a lot less money than what they thought. And I think Furukawa did an excellent job of handling the situation very clearly, transparent, and blunt with their investors, because they are the ones investing money in the company. Nintendo fans are purchasing products from Nintendo, and of course they have some investment as well, but as far as actual stock in Nintendo, investors are putting all their money with the company. They expected a certain amount, and Nintendo said that they're not going to make it. So I think Furukawa did an excellent job of being very clear with them and saying basically, hey, we failed to reach it, and we're not making excuses about it, and we're going to try better next time, is basically what he said. Now, he could have made all kinds of excuses. He could have said, oh, Labo was no good, or Labo caused us not to make it. Or he could have said, hey, blame it on Kimishima, the guy before me, it's his fault. He made our numbers way too high. No, he accepted responsibility and he took it like a good leader. I thought that was a very good job by him by doing that, and it's going to instill confidence from the investors in him to be very clear and forthright with them as they move forward. Can you imagine if in the Q&A the investors were like, hey, you said you're going to make 20 million and now you're going to only make 17 million? And then Furukawa fired back and be like, hey, what are you talking about? 17 million is great. You guys don't think 3 million is really going to make a difference, do you, right? Can you imagine if he said something like that to the investors? That would make them really upset because, like I said, that is a lot of revenue missing. So when you put it into perspective, maybe you can see now clear if you guys had any question about it, or others maybe who thought that Furukawa was way too harsh or hard on Nintendo, maybe you can see the context of it all, that he was talking strictly to investors and that he had to be clear on this because going forward, they need to have trust in their leader to set goals the correct way so they can invest their money in a way that's smart for them. CEO of the company is trying to give them guidance on how to invest their money. So if they don't reach their goals, he's gonna have to own up to why it didn't happen. That's just the way business economy works for them, and it has worked for them for many, many years. The stock market is no joke. These guys take it extremely seriously. If you remember back in the Wii U days, Iwata took a pay cut because the Wii U failed to reach their goal by a huge amount. I forgot the number. I think they missed it by like 7 million or something like that. They way over projected. So Iwata agreed to take a pay cut from his own paycheck due to that, taking the punishment himself and responsibility himself for the Wii U's failure. So that was a really good sign of a great leader, and I see Furukawa here doing exactly the same thing for Nintendo. So I think Nintendo fans should be very happy and proud of their leader so far. With the way he's handled things thus far has been very professional and well done, in my opinion. And you have to remember that Furukawa is the CEO of Nintendo. He's not a damage controller. He's not a PR guy like Reggie Fils-Aimé is. He's not going to always say everything's amazing all the time for Nintendo. He is not that type of person, and neither was Iwata. So I think this is a good sign for Nintendo going forward. They have their PR guys in place already that are always going to promote Nintendo as being amazing. They have those guys already. But as a leader, you have to admit your mistakes, and you also have to congratulate yourself where you've done well in. You have to remember too that in this investors meeting, Furukawa did point out that Nintendo did set quite a bit of records in the holiday season for Nintendo Switch software, and their hardware was selling through the roof during that time period. So he did acknowledge their successes, but he had to acknowledge where they could have done better at as well, which he did. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. If you did enjoy it, please hit the like button. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section, and I'll talk to you very soon in the next video. Have a great day.